Heritage tourism is more than just visiting old sites or attending colorful festivals. It's actually a powerful way to showcase a nation's culture, identity, and historical legacy. In the Philippines, we are blessed with ancestral homes, indigenous traditions, and vibrant cultural expressions. All these are not just for display, but they can also drive both cultural pride and economic development. But here's the challenge. As we open our culture to tourism, how do we make sure we preserve its authenticity without turning it into something purely commercial? This presentation will try to unpack that delicate balance with examples and insights from across the Philippines.
For cultural preservation, the act of maintaining and safeguarding cultural heritage for both tangible and intangible. The tangible are architecture and crafts, and intangible, the languages and rituals. The goal of this is to ensure authenticity, continuity, and identity for future generations. The tools is education and legal protection such as RA 10066. It is the community engagement. For commercialization, the transformation of cultural elements into marketable products or experiences for profit, usually within the tourism industry. The goal of this is to generate income and visibility but may risk oversimplification, exploitation, and cultural loss. Now for aspect cultural preservation, commercialization purpose safeguard identity and legacy generate income via culture. Stakeholders, communities, historian tourists, and even investors. Risk funding gaps, fatigue delusion, in unauthenticity, benefit cultural pride, legacy revenue, and also awareness.
Now, why is heritage tourism important in the first place? Globally, it represents around 40% of tourism spending, and that's huge. In the Philippines setting, it helps generate jobs for local artisans, tour guides, and cultural workers. It also encourages communities to be actively involved in sustainable economic growth. Beyond money, heritage tourism becomes a tool for education and even diplomacy because it allows us to share our stories with the rest of the world.
Examples from our country show how heritage sites and traditions are being preserved or commercialized. Some are well protected, while others face risk from tourism and modern changes. For example, the first one is Vegan City, Ilocos Sur, a UNESCO World Heritage Site known for its Spanish colonial architecture and cobblestone street. Efforts like the heritage homeowners manual help locals to preserve old houses. However, the city struggled with over-tourism, modernization, and pressure to keep the tradition alive while still welcoming visitors. Second is Intramuros, Manila. The historic walled city rebuilt with World War II, it has a Spanish-era churches, plazas, and museum that shows Manila's colonial past. Today, restoration projects and public-private partnership keep it alive as both a tourist spot and a cultural learning site. Next is Las Casas Filipinas, the Azucar Bataan, an open-air museum and resort featuring transplanted and rebuilt ancestral homes from different parts of the Philippines. It raises debates while it saves old structures from decay. Critics say moving them from their original locations changes their authenticity. Next is Calle Real, Iloilo City, a heritage streets lined with old commercial buildings that showcase American and Spanish-era architecture. Conservation projects include underground wiring and cultural zoning, making it a model for how a city can modernize while respecting the history. Next is Apo Wangod Buscolan Kalinga, the country's oldest and most famous traditional tattoo artist who uses hand-tapping techniques passed down through generations. Her popularity attracts global tourists with revives Kalinga tattooing, but also changing the balance between sacred and tradition and commercial fame. Next is Kaminya Balay nga Bato, Iloilo. A bahay na bato stone house built in 1860s now turned a museum and a restaurant. Visitors can enjoy traditional Filipino meals while experiencing heritage interiors showing how adaptive refuse can preserve history without losing the cultural respect. Next is Museo de la Cola Union, a museum located in the old Tabacalera building that preserves the history and culture of the Loc. For Buol carvings, Ifugao, a wooden rice gurjan figures, once sacred in rituals, now often sold as a souvenir. Their cultural meaning is slowly fading among the younger generation.
Let's look at some community-based tourism models here in the Philippines. One example is the Smoky Mountain Tour in Manila. These are educational walking tours led by locals themselves. Instead of being just observers, tourists actually get to hear first-hand stories and experiences, which also empowers marginalized communities. Another one is Creative Tourism Philippines, which promotes community-run experiences. Some of these are Banig Weaving in Samar, Mangyan Arts in Mindoro, chocolate making in Iloilo's Balay Tablea, and traditional crafts through Usual Artesano in Leyte. These models prove that tourism can thrive while still respecting the community and culture at the center of it.
For our festival as preservation tool, an example is the Kasanggayahan Festival in Sorsogon. It celebrates local dances, crafts, and music. In short, festivals help keep tradition alive while also inviting the tourist.
So, the big question, how do we balance preservation and commercialization? For instance, in vegan, over-commercialization is an issue. A solution would be enforcing zoning laws and setting visitor limits. We also see sites like Museo de Iloco where revenue seems to be prioritized over meaning. In these cases, businesses should be aligned with the heritage value of the site. And then there's Las Casas, where people debate over authentic versus staged heritage. Transparency in curation becomes important here. Finally, we can't forget to involve locals in planning and at the same time enable cultural entrepreneurship through creative tourism.
For our theoretical insight, authenticity doesn't always mean being 100% historical correct. Sometimes cultural can be seen as real if the community is involved, even if it's just been adjusted for the tourism. In short, what feels real depends on how people experience it.
When we choose preservation, we actually gain a lot. First, it builds national pride and unity. Second, it encourages knowledge transfer, especially to the youth, ensuring traditions won't fade away. It also creates identity-based tourism, meaning visitors come not just to see pretty sights, but to experience something truly Filipino. And most importantly, preservation supports sustainable and inclusive development, where both culture and communities benefit.
Now for the risk of commercialization, there are dangers when the culture is over-commercialized. First is turning sacred sites into tourist spots. Second, losing true cultural meaning. Third, silencing local voices. And last is too much strain on infrastructure. It means too much commercialization can harm culture instead of protecting it.
To wrap things up, preservation and commercialization don't have to be enemies. With community-led models, ethical tourism, and supportive policies, the two can work together. The key is to let preservation guide commercialization, empower local voices, and keep authenticity alive. Culture should always be shared, not sold. At the end of the day, the true value of heritage isn't measured by how many people visit, but by how many people understand and respect it.